Hello, good day. My name is Tope Adaramola. I'm a public relations practitioner as well as a political scientist. I also get myself involved in youth empowerment. Today, I want to quickly share and motivate younger people with three basic laws. The first law is the law of the aeroplane. The second law is the law of the masquerade. And the third law is the law of the camel. So this is going to serve like a manual for you to live well as run your race in this life very well. The law of the aeroplane, many of us have been to the airport. The aeroplane is an amazing flying object that has facilitated commerce all over the world. It's been able to break down the barriers of communication. So irrespective of where you are on the surface of the globe, you are connected to one person or the other by this means of transportation. One of the most critical aspects of your flying is actually the takeoff. At the point when you enter the aeroplane, the first thing that you get to be told and indoctrinated with when you're seated are the flying instructions that has to do with your safety, has to do with what you need to do in case of emergency, in case of the loss of cabin pressure, and so on and so forth. But after all the instruction, then of course the plane taxis off, on its tarmac until it takes off. This takeoff is a very, very critical stage. And of course, you don't need to be a pilot. You don't need to be an aeronautic engineer to have a feeling that there is something particularly so frightening about the takeoff process. There is a complete engagement of the engine. There's a complete engagement of all the faculty, the hostesses that you used to see who come around to greet you and give you some stuff and play with you. You find them no more. It's like everybody is to himself. And of course, the plane takes off. It makes its bend, before it stabilizes. At this very stage, I take it as the stage of takeoff in the life of every human being. It is a time when you have to necessarily engage all your faculty, a time when you need to avoid every form of distraction, a time that you need to activate and actuate every potential that is in you, a time that you need to delay, your gratification. I dare say that at that point in time, the hostesses tell you that this is not the time for you to go to the toilet. It's a time for you, irrespective of how you're feeling, for you to stay glued to your seat and fasten your seat belt. Ditto for life. There is a strand of instruction that we can take from there. Your takeoff point in life is very critical, and whatsoever you are going to achieve in life will be incumbent on the way you have taken up in life. A lot of people have eaten their tomorrow simply because of their today. They've not been able to take off properly in life. They are sent to school instead of them to face their academics, instead of them to make their choices in life and make it properly. They allow for distractions. They allow for things that they would definitely enjoy much later in life. We've seen many young people who are promising, who are bundles of talent, who had life, ahead of them smiling. But yet, while at school, some of them joined cult groups simply because they want to be seen and renowned before their time. And of course, their life is cut short even before their expression. So your takeoff point in life is very, very crucial. It's a time when you have to delay your gratification. And how do I mean delay gratification? Things that ordinarily you will still enjoy later in life, but that you have a tendency to hurriedly want to enjoy. Like a girl who feels that, oh, I'm beautiful, everybody is doing this, let me also have a boyfriend, let me also have a man friend, let me also just, play around a little. And of course, many of them burn their fingers in that respect. It's a time for you to engage your intellect. It's a time for you to actuate all your potential. It's a time for you to read. And I can tell you that there are many things that if you lose it At that point in your life, you may not be able to recoup it again until your life is gone. So your takeoff point is very, very critical. Some people have laid a very, very poor and very bad foundation for their life at their takeoff point, to the extent that their lives were eternally compromised. So your takeoff point is very critical. I have to tell you just that the takeoff of the aeroplane. Then, if you endure your takeoff point in life, there is a time that you will get to the next phase, just like in the aeroplane. When you are on the air and the aeroplane has stabilized, it has gotten to its cruising level. You hear sound blaring out with information that now you can loosen your seatbelt, and then you can do so many things that, of course, the in-flight service can commence at that time. This is also instructive to our lives. There's a time in your life that you can loosen up. There's a time that naturally all the things that you have garbaged into your life will start to come back to you. All the credibility you have built, all the hard work you have built, all the reputation that you have built, they begin to work for you. I see a lot of people today that have laid solid foundation for their lives, academically, morally, and socially, cruising fine at this point in their life. All that the world demands of them is, who are you? What have you done in the past? What are you renowned for? But you cannot quote or leverage on what is not already in your life. So there's a cruising point that I admonish you to wait for as a young man that is listening to me. Your life will not continue to be like this. I remember that when I graduated from school, I could hardly afford good dresses, even though I like to dress well. I had to go to the bend down, just to get some stuff. And I had some mates who were compromised, who some had to defraud their parents, garbaging in wrong virtues into their lives, and of course, who were the big boys on campus in those days. And but today I start to ask, where are they? Some of them cannot find their rhythm again. You now see many of them even hiding from their friends, and of course their lives are compromised. So they cannot enjoy the cruising stage in their life, And of course, after the cruising stage is the descent point. There's a point that we all have to descend. There's a point that everything that we have put into our lives, there will be a descending point. At that point, it will now be incumbent on how you are able to manage your life. What is going to determine how you are going to come down in life will be dependent on your first phase, the phase of your taking off, the phase of your stabilization and cruising level, what you have garbaged into your life. If you have garbaged vices into your life, if you have garbage recklessness into your life. I've seen people who in the twilight of their years, they end up being sickly. They end up developing degenerative ailments, which are not the acts of God, but actually product of what they have put into their lives. They don't run well, they don't end well, and I think this is always very, very sad indeed. Substantial number of people who don't end well. You need to examine, how they are started. You need to examine the phase 2 of their life, which is their cruising level, and then you see how they are going to end well. So, young man, there's a cruising point. Young lady, there's a takeoff point in your life. That takeoff point, like I told you, is usually very difficult, as is a period of loneliness when you have to be strapped to your seat. Is a period that your movement is hampered. Is a period that what you could call your personal liberty, is in chains. But I admonish you, endure it. The takeoff process or period of the aeroplane is usually not much, but it is very, very dangerous. The aviation report has said that about 80 or 70% of the plane crashes you have, they always occur or often occur at the point of takeoff and at the point of coming down. Those two processes, those two phases of life are also very critical. How you have taken off in life and how you are going to come down. And of course, this tells us that you must be mindful of the way you run your life. There are some things that you garbage into your life today that definitely will make a mess of your future. There are some associations that you have today that will not allow you even to get to your destination. There are some things that you read. There are some habits that you develop that will not make you to finish strong. And I want you to sit down and do a self-evaluation of your life. How am I taking off? You know, maybe you still have the opportunity to make amend because you are yet to get to the cruising level, and before this plane of life crashes, you can still make an amend. So the law of the aeroplane is applicable to you, that there are three phases in life. There's a stage of takeoff, there's a cruising level, and then there's a stage of coming down. The three stages are actually connected to themselves, and you can glean some wisdom from that. The second law has to do with the law of the masquerade. This is this is a very traditional story. For some of us that grew up in the villages, you know how masquerades are actually entertainers, and of course they make us feel good in those days when we see them dance, maybe at village festivals or at some social gathering. At that time, we usually enjoy them. We leave our mommy's chores only to go there and enjoy very good music, very unique and very weird dances by the masquerade. But in the course of this, I gained a wisdom from that. You know, there used to be a masquerade festival whilst I was growing up in the place where my parents lived. You know, we just sneak out to go and watch, you know, and have a good feel, you know, of the festival. And I observed that there are two types of masquerade. There is we had the smaller masquerades. The smaller masquerades were actually the initial entertainers, and at some point in time they have to take their vacation. They have to be cleared of the stage for the big masquerade. But whilst they are there entertaining everybody and giving an impression that you have had a good treat, you know, the big masquerade is somewhere, you know, in they call it the ballet. Is in the place where they are equipping him for his ultimate dance. They are busy putting all the adornments on him. They are busy, you know, psyching him up. They are busy fortifying him and making sure that when he enters the stage, every other person, every other masquerade, you know, vaporizes. And this is what happens. So when the drummers herald the big masquerade, no one tells the smaller masquerades that their days and time were up. Suddenly you won't see them again, and their memory fizzles away with them. So when the big masquerade comes on stage, wow, everybody will have a good feel, everybody will have a good touch of the entertainment. And what saddens me is that however much the younger masquerade or the smaller masquerade had performed before now, you know, your memory of them and their performance blurs off. So what is the moral of this story? The moral of this story is that you actually need to devote some time, you know, to being and running on your own lane. You either choose to be a small masquerade that comes to the stage very early in life, that comes to the stage to be celebrated and receive people's applause even before your time. But by the time the big masquerade comes over, you know, you begin to ask, what are those things that has been garbaged into the big masquerade? Is been in the fortification room, he's been equipping and building, you know, strength into himself, you know, in such a way that he can endure for long on the track, you know. So this also is applicable. You can draw some moral lessons for your life there, that in life you have to be able to make up your mind on what you want to be. Do you want to be the small masquerade who will hurriedly run to the stage and suddenly you fizzle out when the big masquerades come? Or do you want to be the big masquerades that take the day and take the memory of people for a very long time? So the choice is yours as a young man. You either be the small masquerade that comes to the stage, plays, you know, feel cool, but you have a very limited span on stage, or that person, or that big masquerade that has fortified itself, that has developed very strong inner energy, that has developed very strong faculty and resource that can sustain it for a very long time. You have gotten men that came to the stage powerfully in such a way that they've been on the stage for so long, and you have also had those who came and all of a sudden they were like passing birds in the air or the flower of the field. They faded away and nobody had anything of them again. But the difference between them is the level of their preparation as well as the content that they have garbaged into their lives. So I ask you, what are you garbaging into your life? What are you putting into your life? Are you the big masquerade that endures all the heavy adornments, all the fortifications? Of course, they kept those things, kept him in there in the incubation room for a very long time, only for him to go out and be expressed by them. So you have to make up your mind, young man, young lady, what exactly do you want to do? What type of masquerade would you like to be? When I come back to you next time, I'm going to talk to you about the third law, which is the law of the camel. But before then, bye-bye and stay blessed.